The blue-green world of Zorakai burned under a rain of plasma fire. Crimson bolts streaked across the sky, fierce and unyielding. They slammed into the massive energy dome that shielded the planet's core. The dome cracked, tiny fractures spidered across its surface, glowing like shattered glass. Commander Raltus stood on the command deck of the Orbital Defense Station Shield Corps. His 4 arms clenched the railing as alarm screamed around him. The protective dome flickered, wavering between strength and failure. "Commander, the dome integrity is down to 43%, reported a young officer. Her voice trembled. Raltus' mandibles clicked sharply. 43%? How much longer can it hold? Not long, sir. The Thalera firepower is relentless. Outside the station's viewport, the scene was nightmare. The Thalera fleet hovered close, their warships blood-red and menacing. Great curtains of plasma bolts cascaded down like fiery waterfalls. Beneath, the skeletal remains of Zorakai's cities glowed faintly. Giant mushroom-shaped explosions dotted the surface, proof of the devastation wrought. Raltus turned to the holocom. "Open channel to Stellar Union Council. We need immediate support. Our dome is failing." A moment later, the cold face of Speaker Urana appeared, a tall, silver-skinned diplomat from the Stellar Union. Her eyes were icy pools of indifference. "Commander Raltus," she said smoothly, "the Stellar Union Council has reviewed your request." Raltus swallowed hard. "Our planet is on the brink. The Thalara assault is overwhelming. We need reinforcements." Rana's lips curled into a faint dismissive smile. "The feud between Zorakai and Thalara is ancient. It has spilled across the stars for centuries. This is a conflict born of hatred and history." Raltus clenched his fists. "But this is genocide. Our people face extinction. The Stellar Union will not intervene in what it calls ancient tribal warfare," Rana replied coldly. "Your world is not a priority," replied coldly. "Your world is not a priority. We must focus on threats that endanger the entire Union." Raltus felt a crushing weight settle over him. "You abandon us to die." Urana's image flickered. "We do not abandon. We make hard choices. Prepare your people for what comes. May you find strength in your own resolve." Raltus stared at the dark void beyond the viewport. The Union's sleek silver cruisers drifted silently in orbit, silent witnesses. They did nothing. They would do nothing. He bellowed orders. "All units, reinforce the dome's core emitters. Focus plasma countermeasures. Buy time, no matter the cost." His crew scrambled. Energy flared as power grids surged. The dome shimmered, fighting to hold. But the Thalera plasma fire did not relent. Overhead, the Thalera Overlord Vexcar's flagship glowed malevolently. From its command bridge, Vexcar watched the dome's fractures grow. Soon, he hissed, his voice as cold as the void. "Zorakai will shatter like glass." Back on the surface, despair gripped the Zorakai people. Refugees huddled in shadowed shelters, faces etched with fear and defeat. The once vibrant cities were now ghostly ruins lit by the flickering core dome. Elder Vela whispered to a group of children, "Our ancestors fought with honor. We must hold fast even as the shield falls." But deep inside, even hope wavered. In orbit, alarms screamed louder. The dome's core emitters sparked and sputtered. The great translucent shield glowed faintly before splintering violently. Cracks ran like lightning bolts across the dome's surface. A jagged fissure tore open and a searing plasma bolt punched through, igniting a catastrophic explosion. The station shook. Power flickered. The shield was dying. Raltus roared into his comm. "Evacuate all non-combatants to secondary shelters. Prepare for planetary surface attack. This is no longer defense, it is survival." The Thalara assault grew fiercer. Plasma blasts rained in torrential waves. The blue-green world beneath was bleeding, struggling for breath. Raltus looked once more at the cold Stellar Union fleet, drifting indifferently. Their polished hulls gleamed like ghostly sentinels, untouched and unmoved. No help. "No mercy," Raltis muttered. "The Union has turned its back on us." But somewhere deep inside, a spark of defiance flared. Zorakai would not fall without a fight. The dome cracked again. The planet groaned. The ancient war of hatred was about to reach its bloody climax. Beneath the dying shield, the people of Zorakai braced for annihilation. A thunderous crack echoed across the skies of Zorakai. The dome, once a flawless bubble of energy, splintered under the relentless plasma assault. Jagged fissures laced the glowing barrier. Through the breaks, crimson fire poured like rivers of hell. Mushroom clouds bloomed across the battered surface. Each plasma blast ignited the air, sending towering columns of scorched smoke and fire spiraling upward. The once vibrant blue-green world was now a burning wasteland. Commander Kirath stood among the rubble, his claws clenched tight around a crude plasma rifle. The weapon hummed faintly, barely a match for the monstrous war machines above. Beside him, Elder Vila's face was drawn tight with sorrow. "They promised aid," Vila whispered, voice cracking in the thick smoke. "The Stellar Union." They turned their backs. "The Isle left us to burn." Kirath's eyes burned with fury. "We fight. We cannot fall here." Above, the sky was choked with ash and fire. Dark Thalara dropships descended like vultures. Their undersides glowed ominously, launching plasma bombs in deadly arcs. Each explosion tore new wounds into the land. The streets below swarmed with frightened Zorokai. Families clutching jagged blades and ancient plasma rifles ran for cover, then stopped. They formed ranks amid crumbled stone walls and broken towers. Defiance flickered in their eyes. "Hold your ground!" Kirath barked. "For Zorokai!" A scream pierced the chaos as a nearby building erupted. Shards of stone rained down. Mothers grabbed children, dragging them toward shadowed shelters. The smell of burning flesh and ozone filled the air. Kirath raised his rifle, firing sharp bursts into the descending ships. His shots barely scratched their armor. Yet every blast was a message. Zorokai would not bow quietly. The Thalara ships unleashed wave after wave of plasma fire. The air rippled with heat. Fires spread quickly, consuming fields and homes. Alien refugees stumbled through smoke, their faces streaked with ash and tears. Elder Vela gathered a group of survivors. "We stand with those who defend us," she said, her voice steady despite the terror. "If the Union abandons us, we will become the sword ourselves." A mother pressed a jagged energy blade into her son's hands. "Don't let the stars fall without a fight." Kirath's militia formed a thin line across a shattered boulevard. Makeshift barricades of stone and metal rose between them and the advancing enemy. The air shook with distant explosions. Into the firestorm they charged. Plasma rifles flared, bolts streaking through smoky skies. The ground shook beneath the Lara walkers. Their monstrous legs crushed stone and bone alike. A plasma bomb detonated nearby. The blast threw Kirath to the ground, his suit scorched, his ears ringing. Blood coursed down his arm, but he rose, gritting teeth against the pain. "Keep firing! Hold the line!" he shouted. Around him, Zorokai warriors screamed battle cries, ancient, fierce, desperate. Their blades glinted cold beneath the fiery skies. They fought for every inch, every breath. Yet despair clung to them like a shadow. "How could the Union let this happen?" muttered a young fighter, wiping soot from his face. Vela answered quietly, "They fear our old hatred. They choose safety over sacrifice." Kirath clenched his jaw. "Then they will remember the name Zorokai when we burn their halls." The Thalara dropped more plasma bombs, their firestorms spreading wider. The air was thick with ash and death, yet the militia held, fragile but unbroken. The final fragile but unbroken. The final fragment of the dome flickered and died. No shield remained. Below, the Zorokai readied themselves, not as victims, but as warriors, armed with plasma rifles humming with raw energy and blades that gleamed deadly in the firelight. They stood firm. Kirath raised his blade high. "Let them come. We face the storm together." The skies burned red. The night screamed with the fury of war. The sky above Zorokai burned with fire and smoke. The last section of the planetary dome had shattered. The Thalara warships hammered the surface with relentless plasma fire. Despair settled over the battered world. A brilliant light tore the darkness of space. A massive blue portal blossomed above the battlefield, glowing like a newborn sun. Its edges shimmered with swirling energy, casting eerie electric blue light on the smoking ruins below. The Thalara fleet, proud, fearsome, and blood-red, halted in stunned silence. From the portal poured thousands of ships, sleek, swift, painted with the bright, bold colors of Earth's nations, the stars of America, the dragons of China, the bears of Russia, the lotus of India, all fluttered proudly on their hulls. The human armada surged forward like a tidal wave crashing into a reef. Captain Blake reporting, crackled a voice over the comm. UESN, Defiance entering the battle zone. Captain Ryan Blake's ship, a heavy cruiser bristling with weapons, led the charge. Its hull gleamed under the blue light of the portal. Behind it, the UESN Atlantica and UESN Valor cut through plasma storms with deadly grace. Lieutenant Jake Morrison's voice came sharp and clear. "Enemy fire incoming! Shields up! Let's show them Earth's welcome!" The humans did not hesitate. They dove straight into the plasma storm, slicing through the enemy barrage like a blade through mist. Massive Thalera cruisers fired plasma cannons. Glowing red bolts slammed into the human fleet, but the ships weaved with uncanny speed. Human ion engines hummed and crackled, leaving trails of blue-white light. "Hold formation!" Captain Blake bellowed. "Protect the transports! These refugees are counting on us!" Below, the battered Zorokai watched in disbelief. Their eyes wide with hope, they saw the impossible, the arrival of a new force they never expected. "Who are these saviors?" whispered Zorokai Elder Vela, voice trembling. Commander Lisa Hayes of the UESN Atlantica ordered, "Focus fire on the lead warships. Disrupt their formation." Human fighters swarmed the Thalera fleet like angry hornets. Squadrons zipped through space, firing plasma torpedoes and laser bursts. The battle raged with brutal intensity. "Jake, cover the transports!" Hayes shouted. Jake Morrison's fighter darted between enemy plasma bolts, drawing fire away from the fragile ex-Zorokai vessels. The human pilot's grin was fierce beneath his helmet. "Not today, you bloodthirsty bugs," he muttered. "Not on my watch." The blue portal pulsed, feeding endless waves of human ships into the fray. Each one bore the proud flags of Earth nations, symbols of unity and strength. The Thalara overlord Vexkar snarled in rage. "What trickery is this?" No species has dared intervene. "Humans," hissed a war counselor. "They come from beyond known space, uninvited and unstoppable." Captain Blake's voice rang out again. "We fight for justice, not conquest. We fight because humans don't like bullies." His words echoed through the comm channels, reaching every corner of the battle. A massive plasma blast tore through the space near the UESN Defiance. The cruiser shuddered but held firm. "Shield stable," Blake growled. "Now push forward." With ruthless precision, the humans formed a wedge, smashing into the Thalera line. The enemy plasma fire faltered under the unrelenting assault. Human pilots shouted orders over the roar of battle, their voices filled with fierce determination. "Atlantica to Defiance. Ready atomic missile volley on my mark," Lisa Hayes reported. "Roger that. Hold steady," Blake replied. The Thalara scrambled to regroup, but the human advance was relentless. Their tactics were unlike anything the galaxy had seen, fluid, bold, and fearless. Below, ground forces heard the distant thunder of space battle. Hope blossomed in grim hearts. Zorokai militia leader Kirath clenched her plasma rifle. "We're not alone. Humans fight with us." The blue portal glowed brighter, a beacon of salvation. Captain Blake's ship surged forward, shield blazing with blue energy. He signaled his fleet to converge. "This ends now," Blake declared. "For Zorokai, for freedom." The Thalera flagship hesitated, caught between fury and fear. Human and Thalera fleets collided in a storm of plasma and fire. The tides of war were shifting. Atomic missile trails arced through the blackness like deadly comets. Captain Ryan Blake stood cool behind the controls of the UESN Defiance. His voice cut through comms, steady and sharp. "Fire all atomic volleys. Break their lines. No mercy." The human fleet shifted with lethal grace. Ships in tight formation swept forward. Their ion engines hummed a deep, steady rhythm. Below, the Thalara flagship loomed, a monstrous warship painted in blood red and black. Its hull bristled with plasma turrets, but the humans had a secret. "Target the flagship's hyperspace arrays," ordered Blake. "Cripple their jump capability. Leave them stranded." On the bridge of the Thalara flagship, Overlord Vexkar snarled. His claws slammed armored consoles. But before he could finish, a blinding flash struck the ship's core. The atomic missiles tore through plasma shields like paper. The flagship shuddered violently. Panels exploded outward. Alarms screamed. "Shields failing! Core integrity compromised!" Vexkar roared. Across the battlefield, the Thalara fleet faltered. Red warships scattered, trying to escape the human onslaught. But humans were faster, smarter. Lieutenant Jake Morrison and the UESN Valor locked onto fleeing cruisers. Missile bays opened, atomic warheads launched one by one. Thalara ships exploded mid-hyperspace jump. Space itself folded in fiery chaos. The Zorokai warriors watched in stunned silence from ground bunkers. Glowing starfields turned red and white with wreckage. Giant warships imploded, their hulls folding like paper caught in a cosmic storm. Commander Lisa Hayes on the UESN Atlantica reported calmly, "Missiles hit the flagship's jump core." Chain reaction imminent. Captain Blake's voice rang out, fierce and clear, "Finish the job! No survivors!" The flagship buckled. Explosions rippled through its length. A massive shockwave radiated out, tearing apart half the Thalera fleet in seconds. Fleet status? Blake demanded. Over 50% destroyed or disabled, Hayes replied. They're breaking. Vexcar's roar turned to desperate screams. But the humans pressed their advantage. Human warships twisted through plasma fire with terrifying precision. Ion cannons blazed, cutting swaths through enemy ranks. Hold formation! Push forward, Blake ordered. The Zorakai faces below reflected the carnage above. They saw the impossible unfold. The proud Thalara, feared across star systems, reduced to smoldering wrecks. Humans, whispered Elder Vila in a bunker. The human fleet showed no mercy. Atomic missiles continued to rain down. One after another, enemy cruisers erupted in fireballs, their plasma shields flickering out like dying stars. Target the command ships, Blake commanded. The UESN Valor darted forward, launching precision strikes that shattered command bridges. With leadership in chaos, the Lara formations collapsed. Stand down or be destroyed, Blake broadcast. The silence from the Thalara was deafening. Only the crackle of burning wreckage remained. The Zorakai stepped outside, blinking in the harsh light of victory. Captain Blake's voice came through their comm channels, calm but resolute. This ends now. Your reign of terror is over. The once unstoppable Thalara fleet lay in ruins. Humanity had shattered their myth of invincibility with brutal efficiency. In the cold emptiness of space, the light of Earth's atomic fire still glowed. And the galaxy had just witnessed the rise of a new force. A heavy silence settled over Zorakai's scarred surface. The air still smelled of burnt ozone and scorched stone. Above, human ships glided down like guardian angels, landing craft separated from the massive UESN Defiance and Atlantica, their engines humming soft and steady. Yellow floodlights bathed the ruins in warm light. Shadows fled from shattered buildings and broken streets. Humans in rugged uniforms moved swiftly and calmly. They carried boxes stacked high with food packets, medical supplies, and clean water. Captain Ryan Blake stepped onto the cracked ground, his boots stirring dust. His face was calm, jaw set firm. Around him, other humans spread out, forming aid stations among the rubble. Medic Hayes, status? Blake's voice was low, steady. Lisa Hayes, the ship's lead medic, nodded as she unloaded crates. We've got antibiotics, plasma bandages, and nutrient gels, ready for triage stations. Let's get to work. Zorakai survivors watched from the shadows. Their eyes were wide with disbelief. Children clutched to trembling parents. Elder Vela, wrapped in threadbare robes, stepped forward slowly. Why? Vela's voice cracked like dry stone. Why do you help us? You come from the stars, unknown and distant, yet you risk much for strangers. Blake met Vela's gaze without hesitation. Captain Ryan Blake of Earth. He motioned to the others nearby. This is Commander Lisa Hayes, Lieutenant Jake Morrison. Humans from many nations stood tall. Flags of Earth fluttered gently on their uniforms, the stars and stripes of America, the red dragon of China, the bear of Russia, the lotus of India. We don't like bullies, Blake said simply. The words hung heavy in the smoky air. They attacked you without cause, Hayes added. We saw what the Thalara did. No one should stand by and watch that happen. It's a matter of principle. Vela's eyes shone with tears. You come not for profit or politics, but because you care? Jake Morrison knelt beside a wounded child. He gently wiped soot from the alien's face. Humans fight. Not for glory or gain, but to protect those who can't protect themselves. The Zorakai were silent, still digesting this unexpected kindness. Around them, aid stations bloomed. Humans handed out nutrient packs that glowed faintly blue. Medics applied plasma bandages that sealed wounds with soft light. Children stared wide-eyed at visitors whose skin tones ranged from pale to dark. Accents mixed in the air, English, Hindi, Mandarin, Russian, a chorus of Earth. Captain Blake addressed a gathering crowd. We came because we believe in standing against bullies. The galaxy is big and there's enough room for all, but we won't watch the strong crush the weak. His voice was calm but fierce. Zorakai, you are not alone now. A sudden cheer rose, trembling but growing stronger. Zorakai voices joined in a rising chorus of hope. A nearby child ran forward, holding out a simple blue crystal to Blake. For your help, the child said. Blake smiled and accepted it, nodding. Thank you. We're glad to be here. At the edge of the gathering, Commander Lisa Hayes spoke quietly with Elder Vela. This is just the beginning, she said. Well, rebuild. Together, Vela's ancient eyes softened. Your arrival is like dawn after endless night. We thought all hope was lost. The sun dipped behind distant mountains. Human landing craft cast long shadows over battered fields. Earth banners fluttered side by side with Zorakai flags, symbols of a new alliance. Captain Blake turned his gaze upward to the darkening sky. Well, stand watch, always. Nearby, human engineers started repairing communications towers. Supplies were unloaded with practiced efficiency. The wounded were moved into makeshift clinics. The air, once thick with fear, now buzzed with quiet determination. A young human soldier laughed softly as he showed a plasma rifle to a Zorakai militia recruit. "One day you'll use this to keep your world safe," he promised. The Zorakai nodded, hope kindling like fresh fire in their hearts. Blake's quiet declaration echoed again through the night air. Humans don't like bullies. And in that moment, the galaxy learned a new truth. A truth wrapped in steel, fire, and unbreakable spirit. Humans fight for justice, for kindness, for anyone who needs a hand. The Zorakai had found a fierce new friend. And the stars would never be the same.